So in this video, we're going to talk about proportions and how to solve them. So for example, if you design a poster for the Battle of the Bands, and you're designing it on a computer, and the dimensions are 7 inches long by 5 inches wide. So let's just draw what this poster is going to look like. We could say this is the length, and we'll say it's 7 inches. And we'll say it has a width of 5 inches. Right? Now it's saying if you want to print it larger, so the width is 9 inches, what would the length be? So you basically want to blow it up. You want to make it bigger, right? You want to expand it. So when I expand it, the width is now going to be 9. It's going to be bigger, and the length is also going to be bigger. And the question is, what is the new length going to be? So the new width is going to be 9 inches, and the new length is what we're trying to find, right? It's clearly going to be bigger than 7, but what is it going to be? So this question might look familiar from another part of the course. It's like solving equivalent ratios, right? So we actually can make this, we can make ratios out of this. And the two things we're comparing here are width and length, right? So we can say the ratio of width to length, well, the one that we're given is 5 to 7, right? 5 inches to 7 inches. And the one we're trying to find is this 9 inches to whatever it is, L, which we don't know. So we got to put the 9 under the W because it's the width, right? And then this length is the thing we don't know. So remember, these two ratios are going to be equivalent ratios, right? And we're trying to find out the missing thing. So a good strategy we would try to use for a problem like this is something like, what do we multiply 5 by? Right? We're going to multiply that by something, and then we know we can multiply the other side by the same thing, right? Now, 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 1 is 5. It's not exact, right? There's no exact number. I can try like 1.5. Let me try that on my calculator. 5 times 1.5. I'm at 7.5 then. Doesn't really work. So is there a better strategy to try to get the answer here? And that's what we're going to go through. We're going to go through actually 3 different ways to do it. And you're basically going to get to choose whichever one you like the best. So you'll notice when we have something like this, two ratios like this, another name for that is basically a proportion, because this ratio is proportional, or this size of the paper is proportional to this size of the paper. And one other way we can write it is we can actually write it as fractions. So you see down here, and then we can actually choose of lots of different ways to write it as fractions. We can do, for example, 5 over 9 is equal to 7 over, I'm going to call the unknown thing L, right? If we just sort of like do this divided by this equals this divided by this. You could do this divided by this is equal to this divided by this. So I actually could write this as 5 divided by 7 is equal to 9 divided by L. I could also go backwards. I could do 7 divided by 5 is equal to L divided by 9. Or 7 divided by L is equal to 5. You can do any combination of them as long as you set them equal to each other and as long as you're consistent about the direction that you're going. So this divided by this equals this divided by this divided by this equals this divided by this. It doesn't matter how you turn that into an equation. So down here, these are 3 different ways we're going to go through and how to solve these. And this is especially good if the number isn't a whole number that you need to multiply by. So let's start off with a scale factor. A lot of people like doing it this way. So one way to think about this is something over 5 is going to be the same value as L over 9. And to get from 7 to 5, I know I need to like multiply or divide something. And it's going to be the same thing on this side that I need to multiply or divide. And I think the easy way to think about this is 9 times something will give me L, and 5 times something will give me 7. So to figure out what that something is, right, to multiply each side by, let's go the opposite way. Let's divide. Because we can easily do 7 divided by 5, right? If we do 7 divided by 5, what do we get? We get 1.4. So that tells us to go from 7 to 5, we need to divide by 1.4. And the way I got that, by the way, is I just literally divided 7 divided by 5 equals 1.4. So to go the other way, what do we need to do? Well, we need to multiply by 1.4. right? And if I need to multiply by 1.4 to go here, I can do the same thing over here. Multiply by 1.4. So 9 times 1.4 should give me L, right? So if I do that, 9 times 1.4, that gives me 12.6. So what that means is that the length of our poster should be 12.6 in order to match up with the 9 and keep the ratio of the sides equal to each other. Okay? So it should be 12.6 inches, actually. Okay? So that's one way to do it with a scale factor. The next way to do it is by balancing. And by balancing, really what I mean is look at it as an equation. So remember, we know how to solve equations by now. And this is an equation because it has an equal sign in the middle. So one thing I can actually do is I can actually just simplify what's on the left side by dividing. Instead of 7 over 5 as a fraction, if I do 7 divided by 5, I get 1.4. And I know on the right side this just equals L over 9. Now, this should look familiar. This is literally just an equation, a one-step equation that you should know how to solve. L is being divided by 9, right? How do you undo that 9? How do you get rid of that 9 in order to isolate the L? Well, all you need to do is multiply both sides by 9, right? And these 9s are going to cancel out because 9 divided by 9 is 1. And the answer is 9 times 1.4, which gives us 12.6, which is the answer, right? So L equals 12.6 inches. So that's another way to do it. And remember, this way is basically like solving an equation, and you do it just by simplifying the fraction by turning it into a decimal. There is a third way to do this as well. If you don't like either of those ways, maybe you'll like this way. And this is called cross multiplication. And cross multiplication is a little math trick that just enables us to solve things like this a little bit easier. It's called cross multiplication because what we have to do when we have a proportion like this separated by an equal sign, what we do is we multiply across. So that means I do 7 times 9, and what I get when I do 7 times 9 is 63. And then that's going to equal 5 times L, which is just 5L. Do you see that? I multiplied 7 times 9 to give me 63, 5 times L to give me 5L. And now I have an equation, once again, that I can solve. Remember, I'm trying to isolate L. I'm trying to get L by itself. To get L by itself, it's being multiplied by 5. I do the opposite, which is dividing by 5. That's going to cancel that out. But remember, I have to do the same thing to the other side, divided by 5. So when I do that, 63 divided by 5, I get 12.6. Okay, or L equals 12.6 inches. So do you see that? That's another way to do it, called cross multiplication. Okay? So in the future, when you get questions like this where you have proportions that are difficult to solve, you can choose whichever way you want to do. But for now, I want you to practice cross multiplication a little bit. So what I'm going to do the example problem now. I want you to watch, pay attention, follow along, and then you'll have a chance to try the your turn question. Okay? All right. So to solve this proportion with cross multiplication, I have to multiply across the equal sign. So 2 times 17, which is 34, and that's going to equal 11 times x, which is 11x. To solve this equation now, remember I'm trying to isolate x, so I got to divide by 11 in order to cancel those out, and I have to divide this by 11 as well. So the answer is 34 divided by 11, which gives me, it's a number with a lot of decimals, so I'm going to round to 2 decimals. X equals 3.09. That's it. That's the answer. Okay? So the pattern that you should see here is you always have to cross multiply and then you're going to divide by the thing with the variable. Okay? And that should always work for you when you're cross multiplying. So what I want you to do now is I want you to pause the video here, try this question yourself, unpause it when you have an answer so you can check your answer. There you go. The answer should be 3.86. That's rounded to 2 decimal places correctly. So remember what I did? Cross multiply, 3 times 9 is 27, 7 times x is 7x, and then when I divided by 7, these 7's canceled out. So I was left with 3.86 when I did 27 divided by 7. So here we go. Here's a bunch more questions to try to solve using cross multiplication. I want you to take a few minutes to try these questions using the cross multiplication method. If you end up not liking the cross multiplication method at the end of this, I'm going to allow you to use whatever method you want to solve these problems, but I just want you to try it to see if you like it. Make sure as you do them, you check all your answers at the bottom of the page, okay? Good luck.